Imagine a time when animation was all about hand-drawn characters and traditional storytelling. Then, out of nowhere, a little studio called Pixar came along and flipped the entire industry on its head. Toy Story wasn't just another animated movie, it was a game changer. In today's video, we're taking you behind the scenes to discover how Toy Story didn't just entertain us, it completely rewrote the rules of animation and laid the foundation for every Pixar movie that followed. Get ready to dive into the story of how this beloved film buried traditional animation and sparked a revolution. But hey, if you've ever found yourself diving deep into movie magic or questioning if your favorite TV characters have lives off-screen just like Woody and the gang, hit that like button and subscribe to Frame Frolic. That way, we can keep bringing you more of the awesome content you love. Advances in technology and computing allowed Hollywood filmmakers to start telling stories through animated shorts. The pioneering company in this field was Pixar, founded by Edwin Catmull and Alvin Smith on February 3, 1986. Pixar began working on several shorts during the late 80s, and we will highlight two that gave life to the later film Toy Story. The first was Luxo Jr., a short featuring Pixar's iconic lamp, which would later have its own animation at the beginning of each of the company's films. It was released in the same year Pixar was founded and was directed and written by John Lasseter, the main protagonist of this evolution. 2 years later, Lasseter directed and created the short Tin Toy, about a new toy for a baby who wants to escape because the baby breaks its toys and encounters others in the same situation. It was the first computer animated short to win an Oscar in its category. This was the cornerstone for developing the idea of Toy Story, which was still far from seeing the light of day. Pixar continued to grow in the following years, already with the acquisition of the company by Steve Jobs. However, they still had a very limited budget. The Walt Disney Company offered Lasseter a job after his good work, but he rejected it due to his commitment to Pixar. However, the animation company knew that in order to fulfill the desire to level up and develop an animated feature film, they needed Disney's collaboration. Several meetings took place until the agreement between Pixar and Disney was finalized in 1991. Disney was not convinced about producing content outside of their studios, but the agreement granted them ownership of the films and characters created. Pixar only retained creative control over production and possible sequels, receiving just 12% of the profits. Something was amiss. It was then that Lasseter met with what we'll call the Toy Story core team to start thinking about the feature film. This group included Lasseter himself, along with Pete Docter, Andrew Stanton, and Joe Ranft. The four created the story of Toy Story and prepared a script to present to Jeffrey Katzenberg, Disney's director at the time. As a side note, Katzenberg was fired in 1994 and later founded DreamWorks, Disney's competitor. You can learn more about this in the video we made about another groundbreaking animated film. And yes, we're talking about Shrek. Originally, the writers wanted Tinny, from Tin Toy, to be the main protagonist of the film. The idea was quickly discarded because the toy was too outdated to be a child's favorite. He was then replaced by a miniature toy astronaut, initially named Lunar Larry. Over time, his appearance was modified, he was made taller, and he became Buzz Lightyear. Thus, the core team created the first storyboard for Toy Story. The result was disastrous. The movie was considered unwatchable, and John Lasseter recalls simply lowering his head in complete embarrassment. It was a story filled with harsh, unlikable characters. Woody, a ventriloquist cowboy doll, was portrayed as a sarcastic jerk who constantly insulted the other toys. Nobody liked it at all. That's when Disney immediately halted production, waiting for a new script. The team of writers spent a week working on a new script to make Woody a more likable character instead of a sarcastic jerk. None of the members of the core team had ever worked on a feature film before. Many things were improvised during the production process, and they added much of their personal touch to the project. For example, the inspiration for the characters of Woody and Buzz is related to Lasseter's childhood toys. He had an old Casper doll that inspired him to create Woody, but once he left it behind, he was given a more modern doll from a show, similar to the basic plot of what happens in the first movie. Even Buzz's features are inspired by Lasseter's, who lent his face to create the animation. Attracting animators to work on the film was very easy. The opportunity to work on the world's first computer-animated feature film was a huge draw. The movie required 800,000 machine hours and a total of 114,240 animation frames. The compiled animation files for this film occupied approximately 600 gigabytes of storage on a hard drive. This was quite a large amount for 1995, when the average consumer PC had a hard drive of 250 megabytes. Initially, Steve Jobs had serious reservations about the film, to the point of considering selling Pixar because he believed a tremendous failure was on the horizon. However, as production progressed, he became more and more excited about how it was shaping up. Firmly believing it would be a milestone in the history of cinema, he eventually became the executive producer of the film alongside Edwin Catmull. Regarding the plot, the creators thought about what a child's favorite toy would feel when replaced by a more modern one. What happens to Woody when Buzz arrives at Andy's house? This is a reference to reality because, in the 1950s, many children wanted to play with cowboys due to the large number of Western and cowboy films on TV and in the cinema. Then, with the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union entering the 60s, children only wanted to play with astronauts. Buzz's name is based on Buzz Aldrin, the second astronaut to walk on the moon in 1969. After long months of computer animation, creating every tiny detail from scratch, like each blade of grass or every facial feature of the toys, the movie was ready to be released on the scheduled date for its public premiere, November 22, 1995. The total budget for the movie was $30 million. A team of 110 people, including animators, writers, and producers, worked on it. Steve Jobs stated that if the movie grossed $75 million, Pixar would recoup its investment. Dreaming costs nothing. If it made more than $100 million, both companies would see a significant profit. But in its first weekend alone, it nearly matched the $30 million budget. In total, Toy Story grossed around $395 million worldwide. That's a lot of money. It was Pixar's shortest film to date, with a duration of 81 minutes. It was the highest-grossing film of 1995 and won 28 awards with 23 other nominations at the 1996 Oscars. The movie was recognized for developing the techniques that allowed the creation of the first feature-length animated film in history. Additionally, it was nominated for Best Original Score, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Original Song for the iconic You've Got a Friend in Me, which Randy Newman wrote in just one day.
Well, you've got a friend in me.
This was the first animated film in Oscar history to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Screenplay. Toy Story wasn't just a movie, it was the start of something truly special. With its innovative technology, lovable characters, and a story that touched our hearts, Pixar showed the world that animated films could be so much more than just cartoons. The success of Toy Story opened the door to a whole new world of possibilities, and Pixar was just getting started. As we wrap up, get excited for what comes next, because Pixar's journey is filled with even more magic, creativity, and unforgettable stories that would continue to captivate audiences around the globe. Hey there! If you're enjoying our deep dives into the stories behind iconic movies, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And while you're here, why not check out another one of our videos? You're just one click away from more movie magic.